a question I get asked frequently. Can I use brown rice to make Spanish rice? And the answer is, of course. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to use brown rice to make our Spanish rice. Now, this is going to be a little bit different than what you may be used to with Spanish rice. When you use brown rice, it's going to take longer to cook. So regular rice will take approximately 20 minutes. This is going to take 40 to 50. And we're also going to have to add some more liquid to be able to cook it that long. Now, the end product is going to be a little bit different. You're going to notice that with the brown rice, the flavor is going to be a little nuttier, and the texture is going to be a little bit chewier, but we're going to make it taste great. Here's what we'll need for our ingredients. I'm going to start out with some chicken broth. This is low sodium. I've got 3 3/4 cups. And then over here we've got tomato puree. I've got 1 1/4 of that. Today I'm going to use some garlic powder. I'm going to use a couple of teaspoons of that, a couple of teaspoons of salt, and I'm going to add a little bit of chili powder to give it just a little bit of kick, but I'm not going to make it too spicy. So I'm going to put about 1/4 teaspoon of that. I'm going to use 1/2 of a bell pepper. I've got green today. You can use red or yellow, whatever you have. And then I'm going to use 1/2 of an onion, and I'm going to chop that up. And then, of course, we've got our 2 cups of brown rice. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start off cutting up our bell pepper. So cut it in half, and then you just want to peel out the core here. And then we're just going to make slices. I like to cut it this way. Big chunks, doesn't have to be too small, about 1-inch size. And then I'll put that into a bowl. And now we'll do our onion. We're just going to do a rough chop here. And now we're ready to start cooking. Okay, so to start off our Spanish rice, the first thing we want to do is put a little oil in the pan. I've got the pan on medium-high. And I'm going to say, you know, less than 1/4 cup. A little extra. I'm going to get that heated up. And I'm going to put a little bit of butter in there, and it'll help with the browning up of our rice. Now the important thing is we want to brown our rice. That's where we get a lot of our flavor, so you don't want to miss that step. So we're going to saute our rice for about 10 minutes or so until we get a nice golden brown. So I've been stirring the rice constantly for about 5 minutes, and you can see how it's browned up even more than brown rice is. So it's time now to add our onions and bell peppers. Toss those in. And we're going to cook these until they become translucent, maybe another couple minutes. Now, I did heat up my chicken broth in the microwave so that when I add it to the pan, it doesn't make a big scene, because there's 2 different temperatures going on here. So I don't get a lot of bubble up when I heat up my broth. Okay, so I'm going to turn the heat up now to medium-high. I'm going to start getting it close to a boil. I'm going to add my tomato puree. Start stirring that around. I've got my 2 teaspoons of salt. Come on out of there. Mix that up. And I've got to add my garlic powder. Now I'm kind of generous with the garlic powder. I like garlic, so I tend to use a little bit of heaping spoonfuls. So I've got a couple of teaspoons here. You can add more if you want, or less if you want. A couple teaspoons ought to be pretty good. And just a little touch of the chili powder. Again, if you like it spicy, add a little more. I'm just going to go with about 1/4 of a teaspoon. I want to make sure that, you know, anybody can eat this. And now what we want to do is get this to a boil before we cover it. And we've got to get all those ingredients kind of combined and mixed in really well as it's working its way to a boil. Okay, we've got our rice now to a nice full boil like I've got here. You want to bring that to a complete boil, and then we're going to cover it and turn the flame down to low. Because we're going to cook this for about, anywhere from 40 to 50 minutes. It's been 50 minutes since we started our rice. It's been cooking, and we're going to have a look-see. And it looks very nice. All the liquid's cooked out. Now, when you're cooking rice for 50 minutes, it may stick on the bottom. What you don't want to do is scrape it. Now, mine maybe not have, sometimes it'll get burnt on the bottom, and that's okay. This one looks fine though. And so just don't scrape the bottom if that happens to you. So here we have it, our healthy version of Spanish rice. We'll serve it up here like this. Now this is a very hearty rice, a little bit more chewy than your standard Spanish rice, but very delicious. Be sure and stop by my website at cookingmexicanrecipes.com, where I have more recipes for you to try. And be sure and subscribe to my channel here at YouTube so you don't miss any new videos. Thanks for stopping by. We'll see you next time.